Welcome back to Straight Facts. It's Monday morning. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Get the bell notifications turned on as well. Brilliant panel for you this morning with man like Henry. Congrats on the 50,000 subscribers on your Henry Talks football channel. Well done to you. Judge Mo's with us again. We may be joined by Staffy as well, but obviously it's very early in the morning over there in America. So he was awake a little while ago. Maybe he's fallen asleep. We don't know, but he may be joining us soon. How are you, gentlemen? You both well?
From a football perspective, I don't think it could have got any worse yesterday. But yeah, hit 50k, so I'm pretty happy with that. Good to be back on Straight Facts. I would love to hear your thoughts on our game yesterday, on how bad we were in possession, and and the Ruben talks a little bit. Like we were just talking backstage. I've seen some wild opinions over the socials this weekend, but yeah, it's good to be back on.
Yeah, everything is good, bro. Everything is good. Life is good. Football is good. Enjoying everything. Man United fall out, and all the fans wanting Amorim sacked. It's great. Just see it again. We'll see it again and again and again. It's the same cycle.
Well, mate, I think that's the thing with the Man United situation. It's the cycle. And the problem is some people want to have really basic conversations. So you'll hear people go, Terry, but you wanted some of those managers sacked. But my rationale and reasoning for wanting them to go was very different from the outers in the early stages. And it's not often what people are asking for. You should focus on it's their rationale. So I will be honest with you, the people that I've seen calling for Amorim to be sacked, that he's a bum, that he's on the brink, that he's got to go. I'm talking predominantly the TikTokers, the big Twitter accounts. These people have been so wrong about the root cause problems at Man United over the past 12 years. It actually fills me with a little bit of joy and warmth that they're saying this, because they've been wrong about all of that. And I just know that the vast majority of Man United fans, if you are sitting there and thinking, oh, maybe Amorim's not the guy, maybe implementing his style and his training methods and his formation from day one was the wrong thing to do. We saw no new manager bounce. Maybe he's not the guy. The fact that the usual suspects that turn on managers early, that have always been wrong about the root cause, that have always been wrong about what would fix us, the fact they've gone early, I think is a really good sign that as long as we stick to what we're doing and recruit well, and recruitment's probably more important now than anything else directly for Amorim, there's opportunities for large-scale improvement in the future. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but and when I say the cycle, boys, this is the cycle of Man United fans since 2013. Back the new manager, it's the players, sack the manager, the players are good enough, back the new manager, it's the players, sack the manager, the players are good enough. And we go through this cycle. And what I mean by that, say we did follow through and sack Amorim this morning, and we went out and we bought a new manager in, went back to 4-3-3, we adapted the players as Ollie did, as Ten Hag did year one, as Jose did for a period. We'd see improvements. We'd win some games. We'd bring Rashford back. We'd score. We'd do, and everyone would go short term. I told you the players were good enough. I told you it was Amorim. And then that manager, 6 months, a year in, says, right, it's time now to start implementing my style. Because we've abandoned the philosophy, by the way, of having a club standard of football. It's time for me to implement what I want. Then this current period that we're going through with Amorim starts again, like we saw it under Ragnick, and he was only an interim, like we saw under Ollie, like we saw under Jose, like we saw under Ten Hag. It happens again, and they go, oh, we've been defrauded. Short term, they say the players actually weren't good enough, were they? We need better players for this manager. Then they call the manager a fraud. Then someone new comes in and adapts to the players. We get a good 6 months, a good year. I knew I was right. But in the medium to long term, these amoebas have been wrong every single time. So I'm kind of warmed and delighted that they've turned early on Twitter, that they've turned early on TikTok, that they've turned early across social media. It's good to see the YouTube community, by and large, frustrated with where we are, but saying, no, we need to give this manager a summer. We need to give him a preseason. But I'm just not getting suckered in by the noise out there. We know there's problems, and we're going to get into it on the show. But people calling for his head, saying he's on the brink, I don't think so. And the biggest indicator for me is this. He told us everything that's happening right now was going to happen. Go back and read the articles. Go back and listen to the interviews. He said, for the rest of this season, we'll have games where we're exposed. We'll have games where we'll suffer, games where we'll get beat. But it's for the longer-term plan. I still can't understand why Man United fans didn't take that seriously, especially now with hindsight. But, yeah, I'm not worried about the Man United fans turning. It's inevitable that certain people do. But I'm still fully behind giving him a period of time to build a balanced squad personally.
But has he warranted for you to actually give him the players he wants? Have you seen enough signs from him to actually say that let's give him the players he wants? What if it doesn't work with his players? What if you buy players that only suited to 3-4-3 that he plays and that doesn't work? That is what I'm afraid of, to be honest. At least a manager should show you the signs that he's good enough. Have I seen some signs? Yes. But also, there's a massive echo coming from somebody. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's from me. Okay, so maybe it's me. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Manchester United should definitely at least see some signs from Amorim that he's good enough to actually get him a lot of players, because Man United are in for a rebuild, a complete rebuild of the players. And that is the problem now. If you're looking at this, and you see some games, he implemented a good style of play and a good way of playing football, like the Man City game, like the Arsenal game. But some games he completely gets dominated, get the choices wrong, get the players wrong. Are the players good enough? No. Some of the players are absolutely shambolic at Man United. But also, some players are underperforming under him. Some players are not doing what they're supposed to do. Some players went backwards with him. And you need, because he plays a completely different style of play and different way of playing football, you need to be 100% sure that this guy is going to be able to utilize the players that you buy for him. If you are in to change 5, 6, 7 players and they come in to play that system that he has, I actually think that you need to see a little bit of signs. But
so to answer, but I can answer your question. So when you say see signs, look, that's like we can all sit here and say, is Henry's fiance good looking? You might say yes, I might say no. Henry might think she's the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm not even digging anyone out. I mean, it is in beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I can see how we're trying to play football. I'll go back to yesterday's game as a case in point. The biggest difference between Newcastle and Man United is the physicality Newcastle have against us. Harvey Barnes' second goal, Maz slips, yes. And I know why Lindelof's playing, because we've got an injury crisis at the back with players out, and Maguire's being eased back in, and we rested him for Thursday night. That's exactly what's happened. Maguire's not even electric, but Maguire gets a tackle in there. And for me, over the next couple of windows, we're going to buy players that are bigger, stronger, faster. We wouldn't concede that goal in that scenario. The fourth goal doesn't go in with a better goalkeeper. I'm not blaming Ruben Amorim for that. We've also had a number of other games recently. We haven't lost very many in recent times, but if you actually go back to a lot of our games recently, the biggest reason that we've come out of a lot of draws is that we don't have the killers up front. None of them were signed for Amorim. But on signing players for Amorim, I don't want any player signed for a manager. That has to be an abandoned logic by the club. We sign players for the football club. What Ruben has to be is a coach for the brand of football that we want to play. That is why we are where we are 12 years after Sir Alex Ferguson. 12, 13 years later, because we keep bending to the will of a manager each time in terms of how he wants to play. But in the early stages of that manager, we bend to the squad that he inherits. Then when the manager tries to implement his style, he's got an imbalanced squad that we've spent the wrong money on. We go through what we're going through now. We start to suffer. And there's a knee-jerk reaction from the fans on the board to sack him. And then we bring somebody else in with a completely new ideology. An example I'll give you is this. Back in the day, when all the explorers started jumping on their boats and going around the world, some went east, some went west, some went north, some went south. Do you know what Man United have done? We went north for a week, south for a week, east for a week, west for a week. We're just fucking lost in the middle of the ocean. We're never going to find a destination because we don't continue in the same direction long enough. So I'm not married to Ruben Amorim, the manager. I'm married to whatever the philosophy is called behind the scenes, whatever the brand of football, whatever code name, Operation Foxtrot. I don't give a fuck what we call it. Whatever we've decided to do, stick to it. Do not abandon it. We can find a better coach than Amorim, who coaches in a similar way, who wants similar profiles of players that we've been scouting now for 6 months. Fine, change the coach. I don't care. But do not abandon what we've started. Why? That has been one of the biggest root causes to our problems now. So has he warranted it? It depends on how you view the word warranted. Has he won enough games? You'd say no. Have we lost those games because of the system primarily, or because we didn't have good enough players in positions to deliver? And for me, I think in the last 2 months, it's been more about execution from players than it has been the shape that we have played. 3 at the back didn't lead to 3 of the mistakes yesterday. 3 at the back didn't make Onana make those mistakes the other day. 3 at the back didn't lead to 3 or 4 sitters against City, 3 or 4 sitters against Arsenal, 4 or 5 sitters against Spurs recently, 4 or 5 sitters against Forest when we lost. That wasn't the system's fault. That's players. We have one killer in that team that scores in those games and we win those matches. There's no talk of sacking the manager. And the irony, most of the people saying sack the manager are the same people that under previous managers like Jose, like Oli, like Ten Hag that said they stopped doing results-based analysis. Let's base it on the system. Let's base it on how good the players are. Let's base it on what the patterns of play and the repetition. They've all abandoned that to say, sack this guy. So for me, I'm looking at the hypocrisy in the claims, and I'm looking at the fact that we need to build, doesn't matter who the manager is, we need to build a balanced squad for a said style of play. So one thing in 12 years we have not done once. So for me, I want to break the mold on the last 12 years and go in. I want to keep heading west. Yep, we've not seen any land for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, but we're going to keep heading west and we're going to see what we discover. Because if we keep going back on ourselves and starting again, we'll be lost at sea forever.
And even if you did sack Ruben today, what would be the plan between now and the end of the season? Who would come in the next few days to have that Europa League game and see out the remainder of the season? Who in their right mind would come in, knowing the fact that Ruben's just been sacked and Erik ten Hag was already sacked? I think this merry-go-round that you're on, I think you do need to eventually stick with a manager. I know people are going to say, "Oh, why don't you stick with Ange?" But the difference is we're 18 months down the line. We're nearly 2 seasons in, and we're still this bad. You've come in, you've gone out the FA Cup. You're still in the Europa League. You've had some good results and there's some good performances, but how weak your attack is, and now the fact you've just lost Xerxes as well is probably going to be at the Europa League and may miss the rest of the season. When you're relying on a striker that's got 3 goals this season and massively inconsistent winger in Garnacho, I'm not surprised you're losing games. If Man United had 2 decent attackers, you'd be a lot higher up the table than you are. I don't think your midfield is. I don't think your midfield is terrible. I think you've got some decent players, and I think with your injuries at the back, I think you are where you are for a reason. But give him the summer transfer window, and then see where you are. Sacking him now is absolutely ludicrous. It's crazy.
It's just Man United fans, to be honest with you. Some of the Man United fans are so entitled. There's a lot of them that believe that Man United deserves something just because of Fergie. And the problem is, I was speaking to Staffy about this yesterday. I hope he joins us. I think the majority, with all due respect, a lot of Man United fans don't know how to analyze football games, and they see football with one eye, which is they think, because the majority of the ones we speak to now have only lived through one era, which is Fergie, and they think that football is all about, okay, I'm Man United, I deserve to win. Because Fergie, because he's a genius, he won with Wes Brown, with Darren Fletcher, with anyone at the back. He won with Phil Jones as well. He won with Chris Smalling. They think that is what we deserve because we're big Man United. And some of them don't know how to break down games, don't know how to see football the way it is, don't know how to look at the system and say, yeah, maybe if he gets a better player there, he will be able to implement something, because they think that we're big Man United, we should win games. Some Man United fans treat Man United as they are Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, or Barcelona, which is, I think these are the only 3 teams that should be entitled because of the status in their league. And you look at Man United now, there's about 8 or 9 teams that deserve to be higher than you on the table in every single aspect, on how they recruited, on their manager, right? On where the club is at, and you look at Man United, and you're like, you need to accept where you are. This is where you are now because you deserve to be here. Yes, you might not deserve to be 14th, but 14th from 11, with all due respect, is all the same. Man United have only lost 2 games in the last 11 games. These are the other clubs that would accept that. And some of them really just want to be, I'm Man United. I must win because my name is Man United. So sack this guy. These players are good enough. We need to win because we're Man United. We wear red. We have one of the biggest stadiums in the world. We must win then. I grew up with Man United winning every game. We won all these leagues before, so we deserve to win. That's it.
And you know what the irony in all of this is, again, that you are right. There is an entitlement amongst Man United fans. And I think between the summer of 2013 and maybe the 2016, 2017 period, in that window, I think, had we got the recruitment correct, had we got the appointment of the coach correct, but also decided, look, we're gonna build a squad, we're gonna rebuild a team, and we're gonna bring in a manager, but we have to build something that goes beyond that coach. So if we're gonna go for a pragmatist in Jose, then we're probably gonna have to build a squad that, because Jose only ever lasts most places 3-4 years. We're gonna have to build a squad that the next manager can be a pragmatist with as well. If we'd have done that in that window, I think the entitlement was right to be there in terms of, come on, we only won a league a couple of years ago. We can't fall off this badly, because we've seen a lot of big teams win league titles, win Champions Leagues. A couple of years later, they have a really terrible season. Fans go mad, get the white flags out, storm the training ground, demand a sacking. There might be a change at sporting director or president. There might be a change of manager. They buy a new superstar striker and suddenly they're back to winning leagues. That entitled behavior, that angry reaction can generate a response that gets you back to the top very quickly when the dip is minute. But Man United have been steadily declining for 12 years. Our dip is so deep and it's now so entrenched in how we play. This redundant, banal, ridiculous view that just bring me a good coach and just sign me a good player will fix Man United. It's done. We are not where Barcelona fell off a few years ago. People being arrested. The club was in turmoil. Go and read what Johan Cruyff did to help get the club very quickly back to where it needed to be. They didn't spend 12 years in the doldrums. You look at what's really funny about the Man United Fergie era kids. I'm part of that. But I've learned not to be. You're ignoring the 7 years of pain that Fergie had to go through to give the club the stability to have that 25-year period that you say that's the standard. That standard was not born overnight. It's like you see this in a workplace sometimes where people are like, it's okay for you to say you've got to work hard and persevere. You're the managing director earning 200 grand a year. Yeah, that managing director didn't wake up on that kind of money. They've done 20 years, 25 years of hard work and graft to get to that level. There's the occasional youngster that's given a job through nepotism because of who his dad is. But by and large, in my working life, everyone I saw in very senior positions, especially when I worked at Barclays Bank, they've been in the bank 20, 30 years, worked their ass off. They didn't wake up in the morning and suddenly have this great job. They had to work at it. And I think we live in this era where people honestly think everything of any substance, of any real quality, could be born out of anything. And you see the Villa examples, even the Newcastle example of where they are. They look amazing right now. But that's three odd years of solid recruitment, moving in a singular direction. And I'm telling you this now, and it will come out in the wash one day. They are not building a squad in the image of Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is coaching a team in the image that the football club wants to play football. And until we get that into our thick skulls at Man United, and I say we, I'm included, as a collective, until we get that into our minds, and until we give a system, recruitment, time, we are never getting out of this mud that we are in. It is impossible. The irony is when you get stuck in quicksand, they often say the best thing to do is barely move, to remain patient and calm. You can get out of it. You start panicking. Oh, I need to get out quickly. It sucks you down faster. And that's Manchester United. Quicksand FC. And for me, fans are ignoring 12 years of poor recruitment. They're ignoring every example they give of a club that's doing well and who they want to be. And look how quickly they've turned it around. They're ignoring the years of work that's gone in prior to the so-called turnaround. That's why I know it's not that I'm right. I know more, but it's why I know they're wrong. they're ignoring the body of work that's become before the success that they want. They want Man United to get that without the body of work. It's impossible. So yeah, Mo, you're so right. The entitlement stinks.
You look at the team yesterday. With all due respect to every Man United fan, if you tell anyone the Brighton team or the Fulham team versus, with all due respect to Amas, young player that wouldn't start of any of the top 10 teams, Lindelof, he wouldn't start for probably any Premier League team bar the relegated. Ben Yedder as goalkeeper. Listen, this guy has had many mistakes in him. Dalot. You talk about Ericsson in 2025. The guy was finished in 2022 with the heart condition. You look at Xerxes up top, who's had a dip in confidence. Yes, he played yesterday, but at the end he got injured and you had Højlund for a lot of the game. You look at Garnacho. I am sorry. This team on paper should get smacked more than 4-1 from Newcastle. Like on paper. But then I get Man United. How did we lose 4-1? Bro, the difference between the two teams is 4-1. Even without the mistakes. They have the strongest midfield in the league. They have the best striker in the league by far, right? They have Harvey Barnes, who's good. They have Jacob Murphy, double digits assists Jacob Murphy. They have Fabian Schär. They have Livramento, one of the upcoming left. Like everyone I look in this Newcastle team is better than Man United.
Do you know what's really funny?
Yeah, 4-1, but 4-1 is surprising. How?
And even the result, if you look at just Newcastle, I want that. Look at what Aston Villa did. Look at Nottingham Forest. If you look at the players Man United are linked to in the transfer market, everyone's angry. Go and get the stars. Go and get the ready-made players. But you're also looking at, we would turn our nose up at Harvey Barnes. We'd turn our nose up at Murphy. We would turn our nose up at Livramento when he was signed. We would be fuming if we went for Hall. We'd be fuming if we went and bought a championship player in Rodgers that isn't Rodgers, but we didn't know who he was. People would be going mental. They became mad. And this is the thing. Man United recruitment has been so poor. I want to go to some of these comments that have come through here. First one says, it just shows how modern day society has no patience or common sense. A manager can't perform miracles. He inherited a crap Ten Hag squad mid-season. He hasn't had a full season or summer window or even a pre-season. I agree. Rumble says that's nonsense. Every 18 months you call for a manager to be sacked, Terry. This is the thing, Rumble. As I've already stated, yes, I thought Ten Hag had to go. What was my rationale, though? It wasn't the same as the Ten Hag outers from early days. My rationale for wanting him to go was a combination of new ownership have come in, and stereotypically new owners or people running things bring in their own man almost within the first 6 months to a year. So I thought that made sense. The club also needs a clear out. And I believe the fastest and quickest way to do it was to remove the manager, coaching staff, everything, and start again from scratch. Thirdly, my reasoning for wanting him to go is when he admitted that he is never going to, he started to try and implement his style. And there's evidence of that from mid 2023, where he spoke about he can't implement it fully at this point. Then he said about 6 months later, I will never implement my style of play. So you add those three things in, I felt he had to go. Equally though, my friend, this is the difference between asking for a manager to be sacked, because at some point, managers come to the end of their tether. Big Ange at Spurs, I think he has to go. But it isn't because I think he's a bad manager. I don't ever think Spurs can or will build a squad that makes his system flourish. So you've got to sometimes, Rumble, look at why people ask for these things to happen. I'm not doing up the whole, listen, there's moments of anger where I'll say he's a fraud, he's an idiot, he's a fool, he's stupid, he's dumb, he's rubbish. That's in the middle of a game, in a match reaction. When you actually sit things down with a calm, grown-up head and you balance these things out, my rationale for Ten Hag leaving, ironically, is because he didn't come here. He told us that he will never implement the style of play that we saw at Ajax. I only wanted him because I wanted the club to implement that style and build a squad and develop young players to play a particular brand of football that lives beyond it. So when you say it's nonsense, it isn't. What you're doing is you're taking what someone is asking for and you're not listening to the rationale and the why behind it. And it's really important in life to not go, oh, Henry wants Big Ange sacked, and leave it there. Because that tells you a minute fraction of the story. So I appreciate the challenge, but I still believe I was right for wanting Ten Hag to go. But what did I also say? After sacking Jose, after sacking Oli, after Ragnick was hung out to dry, and after Ten Hag, sacking the manager and hiring a new coach in itself will not fix Man United Football Club. Sacking Amorim and just bringing in a new coach, And signing a few good players won't fix us. The club needs a brand of football that lives beyond the manager. We need to improve the culture, and we have to stop bending to the will of the players from day one. And if we don't do those things, nothing gets fixed. So thanks for the challenge, Rumble. You're in denial, Terry. 6 wins out of 21. I'm not in denial, though. So I understand that Ruben may not be the guy. So I'm not stating that everything I'm asking for is going to work out 100%. What I'm saying is I want to break the mold and I want to try something different. I want to give a manager 2 to 3 seasons, and I want to build a squad in the image of the football that he wants to play. I want that system fully implemented. I want a fully balanced squad built to the best of our abilities, and then I want to see where we are. That is what I want to do. So being in denial would be denying that also may fail. It could fail. I'm very aware of that, but I want to try that. I think that's the opposite of being in denial, my friend. That's been I'm very, my thoughts are very clear on this as opposed to being in denial. Patrick says sacking managers is about fan frustration. The manager is always the lightning rod for failures and is the easiest to replace. Look how a section of Arsenal fans feel about Arteta. Context is not always kept in mind. Do you agree with that, Henry?
I mean, when he says, look about the section of the fans feel about Arteta, that's just standard FC to a T. Fans' frustration, I can sort of sympathise with that because I've wanted Ange out for a long, long time. But in the context of Man United situation, if you take out Bruno Fernandes out of that team, I think that team's maybe not be 15th, 14th in the league, but it definitely is a very, very poor side. Like what Mo said about the fans' entitlement, I think that is absolutely bang on the money. You're not the Man United you used to be. Same as Chelsea aren't the Chelsea you used to be. So I think what you said about you need to give Ruben at least a summer. Yeah, I agree. And fans of, I don't want to go down the Arsenal like buzzwords of project process. You do kind of need to see this out. Get through the summer window. You need a massive clear out. Probably 10 to 12 players need to be moved on in the next 18 months and then just go from there. But yeah, it is out of fans' frustration.
But you know, I'm just gonna add before we go to the next super chat, I'm gonna add to Henry. You know the problem with some of the Man United fans about this rebuild, and I'm just gonna warn you from now, Terry. I'm coming from the future to tell you. You're spot on about you're gonna get players that they don't want. They want Bruno Fernandes out. Man United fans, some of them think that Bruno is not good enough for Man United, even though he's your best player, and people put him in team of the season, even though you are 14. The problem with some of the Man United fans is that they think that the club is still as attractive as during Fergie. That is the problem. They're still more attractive than other clubs. We are big Man United. That is the problem. People want to kick off about it. Like, they don't want to accept where they are. Like, they don't want to put the context. If Amorim gets a player and he's working with him to develop that player, we should get better. We should get the superstar. And that is the entitlement I'm talking about. You have to wait. You know where you are. Morgan Rogers was not brought in as a superstar. He's now valued at 100 million. Isak was not brought in as the best striker in the league. Eddie Howe worked with the guy to make him one of the best strikers in the league. Even Mohamed Salah at Liverpool was not brought on as Mohamed Salah today. People need to understand that the rebuild will take time. Is Amorim the right guy or not? That's a different issue. But you need to understand where the club is at. That is the thing. And that's context. What Patrick is talking about, context. It's about who am I giving to the manager? Man United are not going to let go of Rashford and sign Vinny Jr. And they're not going to let go of Højlund and get Mbappe. That is not going to happen. You're not going to get the best players in the world. You're going to have to rebuild. That is the thing. Even if you win Europa League.
It's not a one-season rebuild either. You're not going to have one summer and then everyone's laughing, everyone's, hunky-dory. It's going to take 2-3 summer windows for this clear out. Like I said, other than Bruno Fernandes, for instance, you're an Inter fan. Other than Bruno, what player would you look at and go, do you know what? There's a top player in there.
Amad Diallo.
Yeah, so 2 players out of that entire 25-man squad that a rival would look at. I mean, yeah, Amad is a very, very good
Do you know
player.
the honest truth? I would only take Bruno Fernandes. Even Amad Diallo is still young. We have seen glimpses, but he's not a ready-made player. People talk about Amad Diallo. He's a ready-made player. And oh my God, the problem is some of the fan base that we talk to and we listen to, they say, Amad Diallo can carry this team. For how long? How many senior football has he played in the top flights for him to carry Manchester United out of the slums? Do you think that Amad Diallo can carry he was carrying the team and scoring goals? Yes, but you're not in a title race. You're not challenging in Champions League.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah. Do you know what's really interesting about it again? And there's a really good comment here from Matthew that says, look at what VP has done at Wolves. We won 2 of 16 games, sat 19th, had players fighting, and sat 9 points from safety. We were 3 points behind United. And this is what people will do, though, Matthew, and this is a compliment to your club, a club that when I was still in my banking job, a lot of my clients actually were from, I had a very good relationship with your player liaison officer, and we had a lot of your international players on our books. So I was at your training ground twice a month for the best part of 2 years. Wonderful football club. And your owners that came in, I want to say it was sort of 2015, 2016. It might have been a little bit later. They have consistently, with relationships with people like Jorge Mendes, they've built a brilliant culture at your football club. So not every manager has maintained, like so Nuno came in, did very, very well, and then things became a little bit stout. You haven't always appointed the right managers since then. But what you have done is the way your recruitment works at your club is you go for a specific type of player that you know you can bring in. But there's always a good level of technical ability in the players that you try to recruit. As an example, you go back to Ruben Neves, you think about Jota, you think about obviously Cunha that's at the club at the moment. You sign a particular type of player. Of course, you've appointed some managers and coaches that haven't been good enough, but your club has moved in the right direction. And even under Gary O'Neill, let's be honest, your players were working their bollocks off. There was no cultural problems in the dressing room by and large. And you were actually unlucky to not win a lot of the games that you were in. It was just the coach weren't quite it. A better coach has come in and you look like the Wolves that we have seen by and large in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And so much of that stems from the Forson Group and how you operate. And I think this is what some football fans ignore. They just look at the results-based analysis. They see a manager change and go, well, he didn't need time. He didn't need a process. But you're ignoring the process that already exists at Wolverhampton Wanderers and that's been in place for a long time. Now, equally, having a good owner, good sporting directors, a good process doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Villa hiring Steven Gerrard was a bump in the road for their progression. But their squad building was still by and large very good. The young players they were signing was very good. The vision they had, they stuck to it. They just got rid of a mistake, which was a manager, brought in a much better one in Unai Emery, and have gone to another level. The problem Man United have is we don't have a long-standing structure, culture, and base that Wolves have. Now, Wolves have less money than us. They're not as attractive by and large to football players as we are, but you have a methodology in place that's been there the best part of a decade, and you can grow from that. So I think that, and I hope you're taking, Matthew, this as an absolute compliment, but this for me is what Man United fans for the last 10 to 12 years have failed to understand. We have not implemented that base to work from. And I saw this working in the football clubs. So how I thought about football 12 years ago is different to how I think about it now. I used to just think, get me a good manager, we'll win. Being around football clubs, talking to people at the clubs, and then actually seeing my own club's failures and the mistakes we've made each time has changed how I view things. And people just see a Wolves change manager and go, see, that's how easy it is. But you're ignoring all the hard work, Matthew, not you, them, that your ownership have put in prior to this. And it's crazy to me that this gets ignored on such a regular basis. It's unbelievable. Hansi Flick transformed the system and conditioning department of Barcelona. No one is stating that a manager won't come in and change things and won't make things better. It's part of their job. But equally, Hansi Flick came in. If you ignore what Jordi Cruyff came in and did after they were declining, after their squad was looking awful, after the arrests and the X, Y, and Z for fraud, everyone anticipated 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they're done. Barca are finished. But then the way they operated internally, bringing in the right coaches, getting their recruitment back on track, they still haven't fixed their financial problems, has helped them do that. To ignore the work that went in before Flick is disingenuous to the football club. You're not taking away from Hansi Flick. But had they continued to operate how they did in the 3 or 4 year period before they got into all that trouble, Hansi Flick wouldn't even have the squad now to work with to do this. Stop ignoring all the great work that's gone in before. Do you know what I mean? So, Terry, what happens if you're in the same position next season? Then we'll address it. If we have a really good summer, sign 6-7 really good footballers, increase the speed, the power, the technical floor, and we're sitting next year with with 20 defeats by the end of the season, then we'll have a conversation. Then we'll have a conversation about looking at that manager, and we'll look at the context of the situation and go, do you know what, maybe everyone was right. Like I've said already, Rumble, I am not married to the idea that Ruben is the greatest manager in the world and he can do no wrong. But let's wait until we get... The question works in reverse. What if this time next year we're fourth? Are all the people saying he should be sacked going to go, I got it wrong? Probably not. At least I'm admitting... at least I'm lucid enough in my thoughts to admit that it could go wrong. Of course it could. But for me, I'm not even focused on the manager as the main issue. It's fixing the structure at our club. Because all the clubs that everyone gives as examples of how they've improved have had really good structures for a long period of time. We keep ignoring this. We're fucking mental that we keep ignoring. But I suppose we have to ignore it because then we can't shit on United as hard, can we? Because if you say that's true, if you're a rival fan, especially, and you say that's true, actually, Terry, about Wolves and Nottingham Forest and Newcastle, then it means you have to give Man United time. And I suppose you don't want to do that. So I get why people don't want to have that conversation. This year, from Jerome, says Man United have average players. There is no denying it, but a good manager. Unfortunately for Ruben, he's stuck with the players that cannot deliver. Same problem at Spurs.
I disagree with that. I think overall Tottenham have a better squad than Man United. I think we've got better firepower. We've got a better midfield. I think we've got a more balanced team. I think our manager, Ruben is a much better manager than Ange Postecoglou. And Ruben doesn't have... you look at that Man United attack, it's one of the worst in the league. That all the numbers show it. You know, you're going to have to be relying on a striker that's got 3 Premier League goals for the remainder of the season, wingers that are so inconsistent. And without Ahmad, it doesn't really look like you've got anyone who can consistently beat a man. With Tottenham, we actually do have decent players. We've just got a manager that is... The system has so many flaws in it. It is... that game yesterday against Wolves, 4-2 flattered us. We should have lost 6 or 7. And Nori had us on strings. Cunha comes on, absolutely scores and then runs over to the Wolves fans and just shows what he's about. The Tottenham squad should not be 16th in the league. There's some good players in there. Lots of teams would look at Bergvall, look at Kulusevski, look at Porro or Udogie, but the system we play in, it's absolutely catastrophic. And our goalkeeper as well. Our goalkeeper was never this bad. I don't know if you saw what happened in the Wolves game. It was absolutely.
I saw the first goal. And I don't know what they were complaining about. It was weird. And then the second goal as well. It was. I didn't have the sound on for your game. It was on. I was watching the Chelsea game with more. I couldn't because I didn't have the sound on.
Impeded.
But I couldn't see an impediment at all.
No, it's just another nail in the coffin. And with us, it's like Thursday. I'll be honest with you. I thought he would be sacked this morning, but now the narrative is that we're going to give him the Europa League game, and we've got no chance. I don't think we'll win another Premier League game this season. We've still got to play Palace, still got to play Forest, still got to go Villa away, still got to go to Liverpool away. If Ruben Amorim had this team, we would not be this bad. You could put us up in a back 3. We've got defenders that can play as wing backs. We've got a decent striker, but we just can't create any chances for him. You can't compare Man United situation to Spurs. We're 18 months down the line. Our managers had 2 summers. Ruben's come into the worst Man United side in Premier League history that are crying out for signings. Bearing in mind that while all this is going on, they've had a new ownership come in, try to change their model and their plan long term. I don't think you can compare the situation at all. But
yeah, look, and I understand that, and I get where you're coming from, and you see these things as different. We're going to come back onto Spurs and Chelsea in a moment, because Chelsea fans, Spurs fans, Man United fans, lots of people demanding the sackings of their managers, and we want to get the viewers' thoughts and feelings on all of that. I just want to go back to what Matthew said. I'm glad you saw it the way I did, Matthew, as a Wolves fan. Says awesome insight, Terry. Great response, and I think that's the thing for me. And there's a few people saying, Terry, what does a good structure even look like? That's such a it's a very deep and complex answer. But to shorten it down, when I speak about the culture being right, is the number one target of that club to achieve the optimum level of football excellence. So create the best football they can to get as high as they can in the league. And how much you earn as a football club is dependent on that. There's no way Wolves could ever create a team as good and consistent as City's team. They wouldn't have the income to pay those players of that level over an 8-year period to be at the football club, as an example. So you've always got to understand that. But the other element is having a brand of football that you want to play. Doesn't really matter about the formation is almost irrelevant. The new manager at Wolves has gone to a back three from a back four, and the players have adapted. Why? Because they sign a profile of player that has a certain level of technical ability where they can fluctuate between those two formations. Ruben spoke about this, that sometimes they'll use 3 at the back, sometimes they'll go to 4. In games, it will change in the moment, but it's about building a squad that has a technical ability and a football IQ to do it, and we don't have that. So that's a big and important part of a structure of a football club. And I just don't think people are aware when a club is broken in every facet. So when I hear people go, Liverpool need City need a rebuild. What do you mean they need a rebuild? Oh, they need a brand new midfield. I'm like, okay, a midfield rebuild. Man United need the whole club, infrastructure, into the whole thing's broken. Everything's different, and it's really, really important that. But thank you for that super chat, Terry. Don't you want to see a manager who adapts to the squad he's been given? Isn't that important? So what I want to see is a manager do what he's done with Kaz, where he says, right, this is our system, it's how we play. Kaz's attributes I can use in this way. So that's the adaptation that I want to see. I don't want to see a manager go, right, those 5, 6, 7 players can't play this formation, can't play that formation, can't press well, can't do X, Y, and Z. So I'll ignore implementing that system. I'll ignore implementing a high pressing game. I'll ignore implementing the fullbacks inverting or the fullbacks overlapping. I'm just throwing these out there as examples because these players can't do it. I'll adapt and play how they're good at, what they're good at or okay at in the short term. And then when I build my squad, then I'll start to implement the way I want to play. When that happens, what you get is a rejection from the players a year in, especially if the new system requires more fitness, more hard work, etc. But what you also start to get is results like you're seeing at Man United now, where we're barely winning any games. And then you get the same reaction from fans, which is, this manager's a fraud. Let's get rid of him. Now he's now trying to implement the style that is going to take us from maybe coming 4th, maybe 3rd, maybe winning a few trophies to potentially winning a league title. We are not prepared to go through the pain, Man United fans. We're really, really not. So yes, I want to see adaptation, but I think that needs to be in terms of how you can utilize someone in your system as opposed to, well, I'm going to change everything I know and like about football and how I play and how I coach. It's so important not to do that. Jerome come back here and says, I absolutely disagree, Henry. We have average players. The game at Wolves shows how bad those players are. 4 mistakes and we gave Wolves the win. They did not have to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the individual errors was diabolical, and that's an understatement. I've never seen so many individual errors in a Premier League game. However, I believe if we had a competent coach who set us up with fullbacks actually playing as fullbacks, not midfielders, there wouldn't be a blueprint out there to beat Tottenham. If we had, hypothetically, if we had Bournemouth's manager or we had Slot, Tottenham would not be sitting 15th in the league. We are only 2 points off of Wolves. If Wolves win against Manchester United this weekend, which could happen, and West Ham beat Southampton, which will happen, we could be sitting 17th. This group of players might be very bad at the moment. We might be absolutely piss poor, but it's not 17th in the league. Let's just be brutally honest. If I know we had Nuno Espirito Santo, and I know a lot of people have been trying to cook me in the chat saying you wanted him out. Yes, but just because it didn't work at Tottenham doesn't mean he's a bad manager. Ancelotti didn't work at Everton. He's not a bad manager, is he? Honestly, there's so many other managers in the league. Thomas Frank, he would not have Tottenham sitting potentially 17th. That is absolute. And bearing in mind with 400 million euros into this.
The Nuno example is so disingenuous, and I tell you as to why it's disingenuous. I'm a big fan of Nuno. I've got a lot of time for him as an individual and as a man. But why it's a disingenuous conversation is because the reason why Nuno fouled, one of the biggest reasons, he was like 12th, 13th, 14th on the list of managers. The second he walked into that dressing room, there was a lack of respect because you guys have been publicly rejected by so many managers in the lead up to him coming in. They should never have done it. And I don't know what the alternative was because they'd left themselves very open to that scrutiny. And equally, Spurs' squad wasn't built for pragmatism because the majority of that squad was still what you guys have recruited under Poch as an example. And you went through this horrible period of going, we're going to try and bring in some people that can win now, as opposed to managers who, and then you went for Nuno in the middle where there was no track record of winning now, but it was just a weird piece of recruitment. It really was. Zane here says, half asleep Henry looks like Angus Fletch from Harry Potter. Angus, why don't I know who that is?
I'm not actually half asleep. It's just my eyes. My eyes do play. They do look really bad in the morning. I look like a flipping drug addict. Who's
Angus Fletch? He's the caretaker with the cat.
Oh, the cat that flipping dies is it in Chamber of Secrets?
Yes, it is. He's also, I can't remember the actor's name that plays him, but he also plays Ricky Gervais's dad in Afterlife. Good actor. He was in loads of things, Game of Thrones a lot. And has a much larger legacy than Amorim. Respect.
See, I don't understand what Ange's legacy is. He managed Australia in the World Cup. He managed in Japan, and he won a few titles with Celtic. Surely, winning the Portuguese league and dethroning, was it Benfica's 8-year top dominance? Surely that, and then getting Sporting firing it in all cylinders in the Champions League, is a bigger legacy than winning the Japanese league. Now, what holds more weight? Winning the Portuguese league or winning the league with Celtic? Bearing in mind, Celtic are about to do a 4-peat. And Rangers have only won one title out of the last 9. How is that a legacy?
It's a strange one for me. It's a strange one. Listen, I actually think Ange at the right club in the right league will do very, very well. I think actually, if you gave him Benfica's squad, if you gave him Sporting squad in Portugal, I think he could win the league over there and do very, very well. I think he needs to go and manage a team where they have got the biggest or the biggest and best budget or the biggest and best squad in those leagues. I think you can't manage I think he can't manage Tottenham. Celtic, Rangers, he'd do great at. The Portuguese examples. If you gave him PSG, I think he'd win their league. I'm not saying he wouldn't be as good as who they've currently got in Luis Enrique, but I think if you gave him a team like Nice, he'd struggle because they would never be able to create. He needs a very, very specific type of player. And that's also why people go, Terry, why do you have a different energy for Ange than you do Amorim? I do think I know rivals will hate hearing this. I still think Man United have got the capabilities of bringing in if we recruit well, I'm sorry to use if, people hate that word. We have got the ability with who we are as a club to build a better squad than Tottenham in a 3 to 4 year period. I personally think.
Oh, without a doubt, you're a bigger football club. You bring in roughly the same sort of revenue, but you could attract better players. Even when you was in the Europa League, you brought in Zlatan and flipping. Who was the other one? Zlatan and was it Pogba? Yeah, like comparing Man United to Spurs is like comparing a Ferrari to a Fiat.
Well, Cal here says, why are we still pretending this is still a managerial issue with a straight face? Do you know what, Cal? I will agree with you, and maybe I didn't make this clear enough. I look at Tottenham's issues very similarly to I did at Man United with our managers and our ownership, not our previous owners, but when the Glazers and Woodward were running the show. And this is why I think more than anything, Big Ange has got to go. I think it's a bad fit. I think it's a bad marriage. And I think you need someone. Thomas Franks was a standout name for me because I think Spurs need a manager who can go from being pragmatic to attacking depending upon the opponent, because I just don't think Spurs are ever going to have the squad that on paper and for a long period of time. So you might build one in the short term because you buy and recruit well and you develop them. But I still think Madrids and Barças and Bayerns and Cities and Liverpools will come and take players away from you because of the size they are. I think you need a manager that's able to adapt and deal with that. And I know that you guys don't sell players like you used to. Levy is very, very good at doing that. But I also think players have cottoned on now, and I just don't think players will sign the deals they used to at Tottenham. Now, I don't think anyone will do what Kane did. Does that make sense? I think they'll do a 5-year deal, and they'll run it down if they're 20. If they're 21 and killing it, I think they'll run it down. and just go, well, I'll see where I am in a few years. And that's not a Tottenham thing. I think more players are going to do that in football moving forward. Look at Trent at Liverpool as a prime example. So I do think it's a wider issue, and it's about finding a manager that's suited, not as a dig at Tottenham, suited to your size, but you are still only, again, there are a lot of Everton fans and Villa fans and Forest fans that would argue they're bigger than you because of their European success and stuff, but you're anywhere between the sort of 5th and 8th biggest team in England. And I think you need a manager that can fit and work in that. I think Ange is someone that needs to be one of the best teams in the country, one of the richest teams in the country. And I think your board have got to get that right, Cal. So this is not all on Ange. Spurs won't just be fixed because they sacked their manager. There's so much more that needs to be improved at that football club. I absolutely agree with you. I think you're spot on when you say that. In terms of what you said earlier, Mo's had some some electric problems at his house. The electric's gone out. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I wanted to ask you about sacking the manager, because you said there that they're going to give him until after the Frankfurt game. That makes sense, though, doesn't it? Or would you still rather see him gone? Do you think you've got more chance of winning the Europa League if you sack him?
Yes, 1,000,000%. I'd rather Ryan Mason going into this game, because you can just see the player. Everything about this appointment right now is this season has gone wrong. He's arguing with fans. He's rude to the reporters. He doesn't even. He's always looking down whenever he's having a press conference. He's arguing. Apparently, he's had a few arguments with players. None of those players are playing for him. Like James Maddison is the only player we've got at the moment that can get the ball on the half turn and play a decent pass. You know, Mikey Moore, another one who's got huge potential, played an unbelievable game against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League. No one's seen him since. You know, we're not creating chances for our striker. We're leaking goals. Romero looks like he doesn't want to play for Spurs anymore. All of these things aren't all on Ange, but Ange is a big part of that. And I honestly believe if you sacked him and brought in Ryan Mason, there would be somewhat of a quote-unquote new manager bounce. But that Frankfurt game is it. If we lose that game, he should be sacked on the spot. But even if we win that game, excuse me, I don't think going into next season, even if we won the Europa League, I don't think going into next season we should still keep Ange Postecoglou. Because like you said, we're not the sort of club that's going to go out there and give him the best players. You know, but that Europa League game, mate, Frankfurt won 3-0 at the weekend and rotated 5 players.
Yeah, I know I laugh at Spurs a lot. And I mainly laugh at Spurs online because of George. George is the one. The way he comes at my football club, it's a bit of fun, a bit of banter. On a real level, I'd like to see Spurs. I wouldn't like to win the Europa League whilst we're in it, because we're in it. And you've actually beaten us 3 times this year. So as we get closer to potentially seeing each other in the final, I get a bit more nervous about it, right? I give it the whole, well, I did beat you and Sim at poker, but I do the whole Spurs will never beat United, but I'd hate to lose a final to you guys. But then if I was out of it, if we go out to Lyon or we go out in the semis and you're in it, for my dad, I'd like to see you guys win it. I really, really would. But I completely agree. And I swear I've seen Big Ange allude to the fact that just because he wins it doesn't mean he isn't going to get sacked. And I know he was kind of digging at journalists, but I think he knows it. I think he knows. Ironically, the same as Ruben knows that just if we were to win the Europa League this year, and it's still a tough order because I think there's some really good teams in it, like Frankfurt. If either of our teams were to win it, it shouldn't paper over any cracks around what needs to improve. And I think the issue with Big Ange, though, versus Amorim, is Big Ange has had 2 pre-seasons, 2 summers. He's had a lot of money spent on his squad. And I just think, honestly, it's not a good marriage. That's what I would say about your situation. It's not a good marriage at all. I think both the groom and the bride are probably lovely people away from each other. Just as a collective, you've probably got mates like that over the years. Both great people, but when they're together, they're just toxic. And I feel like that's you guys.
Rowing all the time. Do you know what? You know how Spursy it is that this could be our best season in 45 years or our worst season. If Tottenham were to win the Europa League and get Champions League football, it'd be our first European trophy since the 80s. But also could be our lowest finish ever in the Premier League.
Yeah,
now that is. I mean, it's the fact that Tottenham could be 17th this weekend. We've got Forest on Sunday. Let's be honest, we're not beating Forest, are we? Let's just say it right now. We're going to lose probably 2 or 3 at home. What that stadium will be as toxic as anything if we lose to Frankfurt. And let's be honest, does anyone here actually think we're going to go and beat Frankfurt? Like, if I say to you right now, hand on heart, will Tottenham go away to. I think the BT commentator Darren Fletcher was saying that Frankfurt's form in the Europa League at home, they've been the best side in the league or in the Europa League at home.
Well, I'm just looking at this. Now. So Spurs have only won 2 of your away games this season. That was 3-2 against Hoffenheim, and that was a close affair, and 2-1 against Ferrari.
Whatever they're bloody called.
And again, I watched that game. That was quite close as well, if we're being brutally honest. Frankfurt, let's look at their home form in the Europa League. Let's have a little look.
They destroyed Ajax.
Yeah, they drew the opening game with Victoria Pilsen 3-3, and then they've won their last 4. They destroyed Ajax, as you say. They're not. The other games were all like small goal margins, but they're unbeaten at home. And they've won, and their record is very, very good indeed. And I think you have to look at the record when it comes to these Europa League games. It's what gives me a little bit of hope as a Man United fan, and that's because we are unbeaten in the tournament this year. But yes, it's a very, very tall order for you guys this weekend. Very tall order.
I think Man United though, because a lot of this team have won the League Cup, won the FA Cup, and it's Man United. If Man United play Spurs in that final, hypothetically, I'd put my savings account on Man United to win, because Tottenham in a big game, our bottle would go and we completely fold. Whereas you've been there, seen it and done it.
Do you know what's interesting for me about it is this? I don't want you in the final. If we get to the final, and I'm not writing off anyone else who's in it, I'm just talking about that particular scenario. The reason why I don't want you guys in it, but if we did, the other reason why I think we might beat you is just you beat us 3 times already. You the likelihood of, I'd love to know the odds. I'd love to know not the betting odds, but the probability of them doing it a 4th time on the bounce. It would make it more unlikely. But yeah, I'd rather avoid you, if I'm being honest, because there also is that theory that you just are a little bit of kryptonite to us at the moment, and I maybe wouldn't want to go up against it. But if I'm being honest with you, I'm not convinced Man United will get to the final, and I really don't think Spurs will. Your away form hasn't been good enough for you to get past the next.
We got the 4th worst away record in the Premier League. And
but the Europa, I mean, if you look at the Europa League as well, your away record, you've only won twice. You know, you've lost
to Rangers, lost to Galatasaray.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's why. But again, if you do get past Frankfurt, it's only one more away game and then a neutral game, I suppose. But we'll see. Viewers, make sure you're hitting the like button, please. Make sure you are subscribing. Get the bell notification button turned on as well. Welcome back, Mo. We missed you.
I'm trying my best, to be honest. The electrical outlet it's just the electricity is out here. It's just I'm using my cell phone connection. If you guys can hear me well.
Yeah, no, I can hear you fine, mate. Can hear you fine. Of course, he cannot manage Spurs. No one can manage Spurs because we keep buying average players.
That is part of the problem. That is exactly part of the problem.
I have a question about Spurs for Henry. If Ange wins Europa League, is all your rants and all your videos are forgiven?
No, I'd still sack him.
You should keep him. You still sack him, even though he's going to play Champions League next season, and he won you a trophy for the first time since 2008, and the first European trophy since the 80s.
It'd be an unbelievable achievement for the club, would be in the Champions League football, but you still can't look at that league and think we could potentially finish 17th. He should still be sacked.
That's kind of strange to me, to be honest. It's just
the Champions League and you finish 17th. You still want him out, surely.
Champions League, I would keep my manager, not Europa League, to be honest.
Well, let's say you won the Coppa
and for you, for Spurs, Europa League is kind of your Champions League. You're not going to win the Champions League.
You still can't look at that league where you finish and think, hang on, you're only a handful of points off the relegation zone.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got to look at him and say maybe he gets a better players if he wins Europa League and he plays Champions League next season. And maybe his system.
Don't get me wrong. Based on that achievement, majority would want to give him the summer, but I just think you can't, like, there's nothing about this manager so far that's shown me that even with better players, he's going to change the way.
You have to admit that with better players, the system looks better. With better players, the system looks better. With less injuries, the system looks better.
You look at a pool of players that Arteta, Pep, Ancelotti, Alonso, Inzaghi would all be going after. So the chances of actually getting those players is so slim. And that's why we need a manager that can adapt to what he's got in front of him. Like in the Wolves game, Romero, I've never seen Romero play like that in my life. He looks to his right back. Spence is nowhere to be seen. He tries to turn around, loses the ball. Romero's never done that. That there is a confidence issue in the system that the player's playing in. Like the tactics. Nottingham Forest will sit back on Sunday with the deepest of low blocks and counter with Cullen Hudson-Odoi and Ilanga. And we have no way.
Would you keep him if he keeps winning you cups, a Europa League here and there, and he finishes mid-table every season?
If he's consistently winning cups? If he's consistently winning cups, yeah.
But that's the whole point, though. If he wins the Europa League, he's shown evidence that he can win cups. And that's the whole point. Where do you think Spurs... You think you're going to challenge for the league sooner? You're not going to challenge. It doesn't matter who you hire. You're not challenging for the league.
But come on, finishing 16th, 17th is not mid-table.
It's not acceptable, but winning the cups for Spurs is just good enough. You got to know where you are. You have to know where you are. Yeah, this is the club's mentality. You win Europa League, you go to the Champions League, you're making money, you're attracting some players.
If he wins the Europa League, he becomes your greatest ever manager on success since Bill Nicholson, doesn't he?
Well, technically, yeah.
Not technically, factually. Straight facts.
Yeah, I just want him gone.
With all due respect to the people that say, look at Ten Hag, you think it's acceptable? With all due respect to everyone, Spurs are not Manchester United. Spurs have not won 13 league titles in the last 30 years. Spurs are nowhere near the top clubs. You are with all due, this is not a banter thing. This is not a dig. You are where you are now because of the money. You should not be anywhere near top 6 clubs. You don't have the history. You don't have the number of trophies. You don't have the number of leagues to be near a top 6 club. You are where you are because of the money. And if Ange Postecoglou wins you Europa League, it's basically your greatest achievement since the 80s. Yeah, and you just need to keep him.
I wouldn't put him above Venables, to be fair. You are right, Cal. Terry Venables, I put above him. I put above him in that period. Big up Tezza.
He's our most successful manager in nearly 50 years.
I get that. Lyle here says, Terry, you said United won't make the Europa League. I never categorically said we wouldn't make the Europa League. I've got to stop reading that because I never categorically said we wouldn't make it. So thank you for the comment.
KJ said that yesterday. I think Najee said that yesterday he said that I think we'll go out to Lyon. And I'm like, no, you drew 2-2 away from home. You're going to win against Lyon at home. I think it's Man United will be in the semi-final. I don't think that you're going to lose to Lyon at home. I think you're going to win the game against Lyon at home. And I think Man United will be in the semi-final.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we've got a chance of making the final. I mean, look, we saw Bodo Glimt beat Lazio. We beat Bodo Glimt. Bilbao couldn't beat 10-men Rangers. There are no foregone conclusions. I don't think there's any one team in the Europa League where you go, they are the outright clear favourites that I can't see anybody beating.
I have a feeling that some Man United fans want to lose to Lyon just to prove a point. They want to lose to Lyon just to prove a point. Like, bro, they talk about we're going to get it out from Lyon. You're playing at home. You are taking a positive result back home. You're not losing to Lyon.
No. I think we've got a good chance. Again, that ain't the point. I think we've got a good chance to beat them. I don't think it's a guarantee. And to Lyle's point, I didn't say we won't make the final. I said I'm not sure we'll make the final. It shows how cognitive dissonance works. At no point did I say 100% we're not making the final or 100% we are. But thank you again. Terry, are you a millionaire? Yeah, I'm worth. Well, my latest net worth about 6.4 million. Yeah. It's not true. I don't know who puts that on the internet, but my mate sent that to me the other day. He said, "You're worth 6.4 million." My first response was, "Why are you Googling my net worth, you prick? That's weird, right?"
Yeah, that is weird.
And he went, "No, someone else sent it to me." I was like, "No, it's all bullshit. I'm not a millionaire. I wish I was, but I'm not." Another team where fans lost their minds yesterday again. Chelsea dropped. Listen, Spurs and Man United are in the mud this season. We know it. But the fall off of Chelsea, in 2025 is massive. They dropped gargantuan points at home against Ipswich, the easiest team on paper they play for the remainder of the season. They dropped down to 6th in the league. But with the form of Villa, the form of Newcastle, the form even of Man City, considering like how poor they've been this season. City have still, picked up 2 wins and 2 draws in their last 5 games. When you look at that, is Chelsea's predicament around getting top 4 looking harder and harder? And do you guys agree in sacking Maresca, like a lot of Chelsea fans are asking for?
Yeah, I think the fall from grace Chelsea have had is how, 2-0 down to Ipswich, and Delap had them on strings at one point. I look at sacking Maresca. I never was really behind him in the first place that he's gonna go on and be a successful manager. But if Chelsea were to sack him, what do Clear Lake turn to now? Because if they don't finish in the top 4, you're looking at what, three seasons, maybe nearly 4 seasons down under this new ownership, 1.3, 1.4 billion, whatever it is you've spent, and you're no better than when they first come in. I think sacking Pochettino, and I'm not just saying this because of my Tottenham perspective, but I think that was a bad call. Towards the end of the season, he got them playing some good stuff. He had Cole Palmer playing really, really well. Now Cole Palmer looks a shadow of that player. But it's not only that, it's their entire front line. You look at their recent results. They're not scoring goals. 0-0 against Brentford. 1-0 loss against Arsenal. 0-0, 1-0 win against Spurs. Okay, you beat a team in the Conference League 3-0. Struggling to beat Leicester 1-0. Okay, you beat Southampton 4-0, but there's no firepower really in there. And I do question if they keep Maresca, how many players is he going to need for Chelsea to get over the line? We all know they need a goalkeeper, and we all know they need probably a centre-back and a number 9, and maybe a midfielder. Do we think that this board's going to go out there and give Maresca the right players? I don't think so. I think he does need to go if they don't win. I think they'll win the Conference League, but even if they finish 7th or 8th, you can't spend 1.2, 1.3 billion and not be in that top 4. That is absolutely criminal. I think the system's got flaws in as well. The centre-back situation, Jesus Christ. The injury concerns they've got to Fofana and other players. I think it is a bit of a mess right now. Like, Chelsea is a project team now. But £1.3 billion to not be challenging for a league title is criminal. £1.3 billion to not have a competent goalkeeper.
The problem is that you turn into like Chelsea fans and do you think you're going to make Champions League football? No. Do you want Maresca sacked if you don't make Champions League football? Yes. Are you Maresca out? No, not yet, because because he played good football in the beginning of the season. Yes, maybe that was the form of last season. Maybe that was the form of what happened last season at under Pochettino at the end of the season. Maresca has shown me that he went backwards, and he's so stubborn that I don't think he'll take Chelsea anywhere. I don't think that Chelsea will be challenging for the under Enzo Maresca. Based on what I'm seeing now, I think Chelsea need a top manager. And the problem is now some people are turning into the recruitment. You have had good recruitment. You have good midfielders. Your players played well last season at the end of the season. You need a better manager to implement a better style of play than having the fullbacks inverted and just copying Pep every single minute. Every single time you're copying Pep. Stop doing this. Stop playing that brand of football. Play something else. Go to the overlap thing. Why is Cucurella not overlapping to help Jadon Sancho or Pedro Neto on that left side? Because he wants to play that system that Pep plays. Bro, he went backwards. And I think I backed Chelsea in the beginning of the season to get top 5. I think Chelsea might finish 7th. It's 7th. It's atrocious for the amount of players they have, for the amount of money they spend. They might be playing Conference League next season if they don't win the Conference League. Imagine if they lose the Conference League and finish 7th. That would be hilarious, to be honest. After all the talk about we're going to challenge for the title this season, Maresca's this, Maresca's that. There are better managers out there. And I counted yesterday. There's about 12 managers in the league that are better than Maresca. Why Chelsea Football Club spend that much money and they have a manager that is not better than 12 managers in the league? Why you're talking about Marco Silva's better than him? You're talking about Horsler better than him. You're talking about Oliver Glasner is better than him. Why? Why did you could have got a better, you could have had Hansi Flick. You could have had Nagelsmann. You could have had a better manager than this. 12th in the league in terms of because I counted the managers that I would take before him. It's about 12 managers. Thomas Frank as well. We haven't even spoken about Unai Emery and the top 5 in terms of Pep, Arteta, Arne Slot. Why are Chelsea fans silent and you only target the board? The board are the ones who chose, yes, target them, but also Enzo Maresca is the head coach. He's the guy that is coaching the team. He played good football in the beginning, went backwards. That you can't be Ipswich. I don't trust them. I don't trust them to be any team at the current moment. Any team.
Have you seen the
imagine if we lose to... Yeah, bro. Fulham away, Everton at home, Newcastle away, Liverpool at home. I can't. Nottingham Forest away. Bro, crazy actually.
Is it crazy to say that? Is it crazy to say that Chelsea might not win a game for the remainder of the season? Because I don't think they'll beat Fulham. Everton, they're the draw specialists at the moment, aren't they? Liverpool, I'm not. I mean, Liverpool will be on the beach by then because they would have won the league. But still, then they've got Newcastle United away, Forest away, and Man United. Is it crazy to say that they don't win any of those fixtures?
I don't know. Can you put JJ's comment up, please? I'm just gonna tell you.
I'll come back to your question.
My good friend Don yesterday in a group chat said that Maresca is playing good football because the strikers are not converting chances, and his evidence is that Chelsea team has the second worst conversion rate from shots after Leicester City or Southampton or something. Or you got to look at the quality of these chances. You got to look at the gameplay. You have to look at how your midfield is wide open. Caicedo's left on an island. He's making Caicedo look bad sometimes. He's not making Palmer look. You have Cole Palmer, a gym at your club. Use him the right way. Cole Palmer has fell off a cliff. It's not because of Cole Palmer. And I'm going to defend Cole Palmer here. It's because of the system. It's so bad now for Cole Palmer that I'm looking at him and I'm like, maybe you should go, my friend. Maybe you should leave the club to go somewhere better. Maybe you go somewhere where you can be used better, JJ. I'm not saying you or most of but some Chelsea fans are still blinded by the fact that you have too many shots. But what about defensive errors? What about the midfield that is wide open? What about the wingers that are not converted? Yes, Sancho scored yesterday. Terry did the math. Sancho scored 1 goal, 1 assist since December. So we know that he has this in the locker. Why isn't Maresca putting him in the right places to perform? Because of the system. They're talking about Kukurea being your top goal scorer in 2025. It's because he puts Kukurea in the 18. He should absolutely do the overlap. Simple football. Why is he copying Pep? Why is he copying Pep all the time? You don't have Pep players. You don't have that much talent at your team to actually copy Pep. You have different style of play. And you have to play different style of play to implement it. So JJ, there are people that are still blinded by the stats and they do the stats thing. And maybe Don in the next episode or something, he just can tell you that we still play good football. Bro, it's ridiculous at the current moment at Chelsea. With that amount of money spent, you should not be finishing 6 or 7. You should not be finishing 6 or 7.
Yeah, do you know, I think it's such an interesting one. I don't think it's all about Maresca's system. I don't think it's all about the players being bad. I think there's a combination. One of the biggest elephants in the room is the lack of experience at Chelsea. And you've seen that since December. They did fantastically well, including Palmer, in this system. They looked great. They were second or third in the league. They were a win away from going top at that point. And then, of course, this is inevitable. You can't get away from this, Chelsea. You know, it's seen Piers Morgan this morning call out Man United and say, isn't it about time we took the tag big club away from Man United? Reminded me of what Mo, when he used to be on AFTV, as in the Arsenal fan Mo, when he used to be on AFTV, said when he sort of was coining the phrase of Man United are an ex-big club. The problem is when people say these things is you talking about it is proof we're not an ex-big club. Because you're talking about it. Does that make sense? It's if we really were irrelevant, you would just stop talking about us, if that made sense. And this is the thing that Chelsea are going through. Because you're Chelsea, and I'm not saying just your recent history, 20 years is a long period of time. You'd be over that period with the most successful team in England in that time, well, up until recently. And, you won 2 Champions Leagues, multiple league titles, great records being set, brilliant players, iconic players that we will remember in 100 years' time. So the standard in terms of where people expect you to get to is up here. We all know it takes time, but then when you start showing signs of it, because I think from mid-September until mid-December, Chelsea were demonstrating a real level of class. They were winning games, they were dominating matches, they were scoring goals, and they put themselves into that title race position. Now, we're not going to have a title race debate because we all see it differently. When does it start? When doesn't it start? Etc. But aside from that, as soon as the pressure came on, as soon as the media started talking about title races, are you in the title race? Could you win the league? As soon as I saw their players do the whole, we don't even look at the league table, I went, oh, it's getting to them. It's getting to them. They're not just responding. Yeah, but you could tell by their responses, there was like an excitement that they're doing so well. But then the pressure was on, well, keep winning then, keep winning. Oh, you lost. Got to win the next one. Got to bounce back. They have not been able to handle that as players, and the manager's young as well. So I think, listen, there are elements of Maresca's style and his football that need to be adjusted. I think there are individuals that need to be improved on. Colwell, not good enough to ever get Chelsea back to the level where they want him to be, as an example. You look at Jackson, not good enough. I don't think any of their attackers, barring Palmer, are good enough. They'll have moments, but I don't think any of them. Neto, still maybe there's an opportunity there, but still not enough output for a player that has his technical ability. Midfield, I think, is pretty good. They need to improve on it further, though. On top of that, they need to buy experience. They need to, and when I say experience, people often go, but we bought Koulibaly, that didn't work. Okay, because of some experience signings that failed, well, you're never going to sign experience again. Doesn't make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's crazy. You need to go and when I say experience, it doesn't even need to be an age per se. Players that have played 200, 300, 400 games, have played at the highest level, have been in title races, been in cup finals, played at a high level or deep stages of international tournaments. They understand that pressure that's needed. I think you need to bring that balance in. And that's, for me, is why Chelsea are really struggling right now. And I brought up a couple of weeks ago, I run the numbers and just looked at their form from when they beat Brentford until the last Brentford game. And when you go through it, when you look at the numbers in that period, they're just not winning enough points. They're just not performing well enough in games to make the top 4. So for me, I'm still saying between 6th and 7th is where they're going to finish. And you can see it with your eyes. You don't even need the maths. City, Forest, Aston Villa and Newcastle are just that much better than them right now. Unless those teams, and this is where it's hard, it's not as though they're fighting one team for one place and Newcastle might fall off. What's the likelihood of Villa's, City's, and Newcastle's form all falling off and Chelsea's improving enough to win enough points? All 4 of those things happening at once, I think's 1,000 to 1 shot. I think they've got a very, very small chance now, Chelsea, of making a Champions League.
Do you think he should get sacked or he should get the Arteta treatment and give him time?
Look, it's a really hard one because it's a hard one because, to break, I want to explain my rationale first. I will give you a straight answer, I promise you, but I want to explain my rationale first, if that's okay. I feel like Ruben needs more time. And so some will say, well, how can you give Ruben time and not Maresca? Well, Ruben hasn't had a pre-season, and Man United are 1 year into our club size rebuild. You're at the end of your 3rd season of rebuilding, and this project that Clear Lake started doesn't reset every time a new manager comes in. The project's still been moving in a particular direction. I think there is genuine cause to look at him and say, well, it's 2 seasons running now. The manager has had terrible second half to seasons. So there's a pattern there that needs to be looked at. However, I get the calls to sacking him. But if they're not going to sign 3 or 4 really experienced players in the summer, I don't think another new voice is good for these young players either. So it's a really hard. So when I say I'll give you a straight answer, my answer is dependent upon their summer transfer activity. If they're going to go and buy experience, stick with him. sorry, like if they're going to go and buy experience, then if they want to bring in Osimhen, Bruno Gomes, I'm making up names here. Osimhen, Bruno Gomes, they're going to go out and get Gahey. They're going to go and get Costa in goal. And they say, plus, we're bringing in a better manager. I think it makes sense. If they're going to go out and go, no, we're buying 3 or 4 more youngsters, I don't think adding another manager's voice to that dressing room is maybe going to help with the development of that team. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they should sack him. I'm really, really on. I know I said I was going to give you a straight answer, but my straight answer is I'm really on the fence. I'm really on the fence. I'm really on the fence. But I'm being honest about it. I'm being really honest. I don't. With Chelsea's managerial situation, my mind changes every day. I'm like,
I can be wrong.
I see the rationale, and then I'm like, no, they've got to stick with him. And then someone makes an argument, and I go, oh, that's a really good point. It feels messy, really messy from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, the difference between Arteta and him, which is, I think, Staffy as well, I have to give him credit for that. He said that even in Arteta's first season or two, number one, he had a team that was clearly, he was asked to clear out. He adapted sometimes by playing 3 at the back, by playing 4, by implementing. So you can tell that he's not rigid as Enzo Maresca, who is still insisting on doing the same thing even if it doesn't work. Yes, you can tell that the forwards are not. It's same as Ange, for example. Ange is insisting on the same thing, bro. It doesn't work. Are you not seeing that it doesn't work? That your forward line or your defenders are exposed. The problem with me is that I'm not ruling out that Maresca is going to work or not going to work. But based on the signs that I'm seeing, based on my knowledge of football, I am looking at this guy and I'm thinking, you're going to get Estevao, you're going to get Andre Santos, who's playing in League A. You're not going to get experienced players because you need to implement Estevao and the youngsters that they spent 50 million on. I can't remember his name, the other here we go that we got from Fabrizio. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't see the signs that I saw with other managers, the adaptability from other managers that I think that this guy needs in the Premier League. And even though I don't think he's good enough to be a Pep Guardiola, the only manager, the 2 managers that came to the league and they were so adamant, 3 managers, Jurgen Klopp, Antonio Conte, and Pep Guardiola. But Jurgen Klopp was a winner. He already won 2 league titles with Dortmund, reached a Champions League final. Antonio Conte was a winner. He won league titles with Italy.
Yeah.
And the other one is Pep Guardiola. Maresca's not a winner. He's not a winner.
This is what I mean by on the fence. I'm listening to you and I'm going, it makes a lot of sense. And this is the one thing I would say as well. This is why when you compare, I don't think we can look anymore at. I don't think we can solely look at when a manager's appointed and go, well, this is what happened year 1 for Amorim. This is what happened year 1 for Arteta. This is what happened year 1 for Maresca. What you have to look at is the game state at the club. Maresca came in after 2 years of Clearlake and Co. building the squad, building the culture, building the structure. Arteta was there from day 1 of the rebuild. Amorim is actually sort of joined 6 months into the rebuild, but after the club have publicly admitted what we did in the summer was a fuck up. So we're really starting again now, right? Maybe they've said those similar things at Chelsea, so educate us on that. I never sit here and claim to know everything. This is why we have these open discussions, but just keep it civil. I do look at it and just think to myself, it really is a difficult one. It really is a difficult one. And I'd love to know internally what they're looking at, whether they think, okay, this is the other argument though. In so many of the games in the last 3 months, they've had the chances and the opportunities to score or put the ball into the right place and win. Or the goalkeeper's fucked up and have conceded. There is an argument to go, well, you give them a better striker, you give them better creators, you bring in a better goalkeeper, and Maresca's team may have won an extra 4 or 5 games. If they won those 4 or 5 games, they'd be a shoo-in for the Champions League. So as much as he's made mistakes, I do see Maresca improving if the squad improves. It's a real fine balance. But look, they could sack him, bring in a better manager, bring in better players, do that whole thing and be a much better team next year. You could sack him, bring in another dud and go further back again. Like those 2 things are an option at this point. The most important thing, though, is the new manager, if they got rid of Maresca, he has to look at this squad and go, I can get something out. It can't be this squad's crap. I need a massive overhaul because I don't have got the money to overhaul this squad. They've got money to add to it. I don't think Chelsea have got the money without the Champions League to overhaul this squad again. Mathematically, I can't work out where the money is. Their parent company is $1 billion in the hole.
Yeah, it's
Can't
crazy.
keep doing that. They won't keep doing it. They can't keep doing it.
Those fans have got to be prepared for the outcome of it potentially getting worse, because you sacked Poch and it's got worse. So saying, oh, you know, Maresca out, let's bring someone else in. You also have to look at this board and think, are looking at what they've done so far, do you think they can bring in a better manager? And I'd also think, even if they did sack Maresca, who would be the number one target? Like, when you look at the squad they've got, the system they play, who would Chelsea look at and go, right, he's attainable? Because whenever a manager gets sacked, everyone immediately goes, oh, let's go and get Inzaghi. Why would Inzaghi leave it into Milan? Like,
yeah, well, this also where Chelsea have to be realistic, and it's hard to be realistic because of, especially when you know what your club has been, that you become less attractive and you become more of a risk for top managers joining you. And you know, Chelsea haven't challenged for a Premier League title for 8 years now, since they last won it in 2017. And I know they won a Champions League in that period, which holds weight. They're Chelsea, that has pull. There's no doubt. But there's a problem there that goes just beyond hiring a new coach. You have to look at this deeply, and you've got to get that fixed. My club's in an even worse scenario. We haven't challenged for 12 years now, as an example. I mean, Spurs, you haven't challenged. No, well, actually, I'm joking. I'm winding you up, but there's an issue there. So I don't see Inzaghi joining Chelsea in their current state. Had they come third this year, finished 8 points off top, and were purring, but the club went, you know what? Sorry, Maresca, you were the reason why we didn't go over the line. And then I think someone like Inzaghi look at it and go, well, that's the team that came third, but the manager was inexperienced. I don't know. I think he'd look at that team in sixth, and I think he'll look at it and go, the recruitment's also key. So could they attract an Inzaghi, use him as a case in point? I think you'd have to promise him players of the experience and of the levels of the Osimhens of this world. I don't think he comes in if what you're giving him is 5 more youngsters. I don't think, because again, when you look at most teams that are winning and winning consistently, they're not full of kids. There's youngsters in those teams sometimes, but it's not a team built on kids. And I just don't think managers would risk it. I really don't think they'd risk it. And that's not a dig at Chelsea. It's just, I mean, it doesn't help. Don here, we have the best squad in the EPL. No, I think he said second best behind
did
City.
he say best midfield in the league?
Nah, he didn't say that. Can't have done.
Or second best midfield in the league or something?
I don't believe Don would ever make a claim like that, ever. Ever.
I think they still think they have the best midfield in the league.
I
genuinely think that a majority of them think, some think that they have the best midfield in the league. They still think that Caicedo is the best midfielder in the league. Palmer is the best attacking midfielder in the league, and Enzo Fernandez is performing out of this world.
Tell you what was funny at the weekend. I don't know where this came from on the Saturday evening. I went in the group chat for 2 minutes and came out. I didn't respond. And I saw Don and Ches and Jem, the Chelsea fans in there, like they were going, and people say we have a poor defense. They're idiots, basically. They didn't use the word idiots, but they were laughing at it, saying, you guys in here think Chelsea have a poor defense. Ha, 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 you're clueless. Literally, come Sunday afternoon, they're all in the group saying, our defense is so shit. I can't believe how bad our defense is. Sometimes Chelsea fans are a little bit bipolar. Some Chelsea fans were a little bit bipolar this season. They'll literally be in a group chat or on a camera or on their own Twitter talking, saying, yeah, we've got the best this, the best that. Then they're on road. They have a bad game. It's like, we're so shocking. And then a rival says, I think your midfield's shocking or your defense. How dare you say that? It's just strange. It's just kind of strange.
When we talk about the manager, don't talk about Maresca. He plays good. When we talk about the players, our players are the best.
Jamal, I was being sarcastic about the Don thing. I was being a little bit sarcastic. We have some comments here I want to go to. This here says, did you think Arteta is mentally... Okay, we'll come back. Did you think Arteta is mentally capable of handling multiple fronts? We'll come back to that in a moment when we're talking Arsenal here. This here is more about Chelsea. It says, Arteta's initial seasons are literally underrated. Look at Spurs, Chelsea, and United now. I remember Mikel saying the first step is for us to become hard to beat, and he focused on defense, yet folks laugh at the process.
I mean, I think there's a point there. Arsenal finished 8th. Chelsea can finish 8th right now, and they're 3 seasons in. Look at where Tottenham and United are. And also, bearing in mind, Arteta won an FA Cup in his first year as well.
You guys know the lineup for Arsenal in the first season? Maitland-Niles, Socrates, Mustafi, and Kolasinac. That's the defense.
do you know what? I've learned a lot through the Arsenal. The thing with the process conversation is people hate the words now, like process and project and, give it time and all of this. They hate it. Generally because of their hatred of Arteta or Arsenal. But there is merit in the claims. And it's one, understanding the starting position of a team when a new manager comes in or when a club starts a brand new project. It's about understanding where you were at that point and why you're doing it. So I think there is, if you look at Chelsea, the case in point, there are some Chelsea fans that say we actually had a Champions League winning team. We hadn't challenged for a league title in three or 4 years, but we were still a very good team. And what Clearlake have done is they've smashed that all apart to start a brand new project, but the brand new project has taken us backwards, where if they would have just adapted to what we already had, we could be in a better position. That's a really fair argument to make. But there's no reflection on Maresca in that argument because he's come into that 3 years later. That's already happened. He's inherited that scenario as well, right? So if you're someone that hates what Clearlake have done, there should be a little bit more sympathy maybe towards Maresca because he's inherited what you've said has been a mistake in the first place. So it's always important to look at things a little bit more analytically and in a little bit more detail. You don't just trust people also connect processes to managers. And that's because of the way, in a very basic, naive way, because Arsenal's club size rebuild started at the same time as Arteta came in. So that's why now when a manager a club gets a new manager, and I had this argument with Chelsea fans at the beginning of the season. It's like your project doesn't restart because you've got a new manager. It's already started. You've made mistakes and made adaptations, but you've already started it. No. It's about when the manager comes in. And I'm like, I don't think you should do that because the starting point isn't always the same for every manager. City's project doesn't start again when Pep leaves and a new guy comes in. Whatever their project. And the thing with the processes is that even clubs that are successful still have a process. They're just in a different part of the life cycle, if that makes sense. And Arteta spoke about it recently, and he just said we can't get phase 5 is when we start winning the major trophies. So you're stuck in phase 4 until you get to phase 5. But you don't need Arteta necessarily to get to phase 5. To get to the next level, you might need to replace him. And this is why I always think it's about having honest conversations, dropping your allegiances, dropping who you hate and don't like, and understanding that every single club in England, whether you like it or not, every club in Europe has a project as a project or a plan of action or a process that is following. The issue is that when they change direction or they bring in someone new to run a certain department or they bring in a new head coach, they're not all in the same starting point. And I think that's what football fans forget, is that you can't do like for like comparisons between every manager, every coach, every club, every new signing. It's weird to me. Do you get where I'm coming from? It's like Haaland hasn't looked as good this season in a City team that hasn't looked as good. That doesn't make his first 2 seasons null and void because, he hasn't reached those standards again. But the team hasn't been as good. The recruitment in the positions behind him to feed him hasn't been as good. Therefore, the supply hasn't been done as well. Defensively, they've been poor in comparison, which means they don't have the foundation on the pitch to grow from and work from. You can't take that all out on Haaland. It's, if Haaland joined City when they were like this season, poor by their standards, he wouldn't have broke all those records straight away. Doesn't mean those records are meaningless. Would Mo Salah have broken Henry's record this season if he was playing for Man United? Would Salah have this amount of goals and assists playing for Man United? No, not in my personal. He'd have a lot still because he's fucking brilliant, but he wouldn't have this many. Doesn't mean his achievements worthless. It's just we struggle sometimes as football fans, I think, to have honest conversations. Does that make sense? Because everybody wants the point score. Like I said earlier,
I told you so.
Yeah, I told you so. And also, if you admit, for instance, like the conversation an hour ago about Man United, if you admit that we need to, there's not been a great culture, not been a great structure, not been a great internal running of the club, and that's going to take a number of years to fully implement and get it ticking over perfectly. If you admit that's true, and no club can operate at the highest level on the pitch without that, then you can't for a couple of years banter Man United's manager. So you're never going to admit it's true because it takes away your ability to attack a rival. And you may not believe it's needed either. You might genuinely believe it isn't needed. but most people won't admit it's needed because it hinders what they can and can't say about your football. It's why the mainstream media don't focus on it, I think, because for certain clubs and certain scenarios, it would mean you can't have Roy Keane for 3 years going in on them. And they need that for the attention those news articles and those videos get. So I do think we struggle with that sometimes as football fans. This is moving on to Arsenal slightly because it's a big week for them. Guna Carlos says, call me crazy. We have a 0% chance versus Inter, but I think PSG and Barca have a 50% chance due to their style of play. Thoughts? We'll come back to that direct question in a minute, but it's a big week for Arsenal. Big week in the Champions League for them and Aston Villa. Do you boys just gut feeling? Because I may not speak to you before their next game, especially you, Henry. But do you guys think there could be a problem here for Arsenal? Or do you think they're through and they're in those semi-finals?
If there's one stadium where this sort of magic can happen, it is the Bernabeu. And if there is one team that can come back from a 3-goal deficit, it is definitely Real Madrid. But Madrid this season, even their game yesterday when Mbappe got sent off, they won 1-0. Something tells me that Madrid will come back and it will go to extra time. Yeah, something tells me Madrid will do it and come and forge a comeback, and then extra time, who knows?
What is that something? What is that? What is that? Is that feeling or?
Yeah, just a feeling. Like Real Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti will lift his eyebrow up, and then the magic will start.
So no rationale, just Henry's feeling.
That's my gut feeling, honestly.
Just a feeling.
That stadium, if it was, even if they're playing, if they're playing Inter, there's something about Real Madrid under the lights, in the Champions League at the Bernabeu. It's the hardest ground to go to.
Do you know when the last time Arsenal got beat by 3 goals? You know that?
It was probably
3 or 4 years ago. It was when City won 4-1 when they were going to the Etihad. And that Arsenal is different than this one. And they had Rob Holden at the back. And Arteta was not as pragmatic as now. And Arteta was not as experienced as now.
I think Arsenal will do it.
I actually think that anyone that is saying, at least you're honest, Henry, at least you said it's my gut feeling, I have no rationale behind it, it's just Real Madrid. My problem with football fans now is that there is zero rationale. Of course, there is always a chance in football, but there is zero rationale for anyone to tell me that Real Madrid will come back from a 3-0 deficit, as bad as we saw them at Arsenal, right? As bad as we saw them at the Emirates, that they're going to come back from 3-0 down without Arsenal scoring a goal. Or even Arsenal conceding 3 goals. I see no signs of that. And I think it will be one of the greatest comebacks in football history, in the Champions League history. It will be equal to the remontada that Barcelona did against PSG. There is nothing to tell me that Real Madrid will come back. In my head, this tie is done. I am doing a watch-along for Inter versus Bayern Munich because I don't care about watching Arsenal versus Real Madrid because I think that is done. And if Arsenal bottle that, there is massive questions that need to be asked about that team. I don't care if Partey's injured. I don't care if Gabriel is injured. There is no rationale behind any rival other than hate or just banter to say that Arsenal will get smashed against Real Madrid by 4 goals or even go to extra time. There is nothing to tell. There are no signs that Arsenal will concede 3 goals. There is no signs that Arsenal will concede 3 goals.
Yeah,
no one can explain football.
Just a gut feeling. I've got zero.
It's just a gut feeling.
It's just a gut feeling.
Which is, by the way, that is not, you know, and I know that we cannot hold that in analysis of football. It's just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, when City were winning against Real Madrid, the difference is City still attacking. Pep Guardiola is not a coach that knows how to set up the team defensively. Arteta knows. That is the difference between the two coaches. People that say Real Madrid will win 5-0, based on what? It's your hate talking. It's just your hate. People in the chat are saying me 5. It's just ridiculous.
There's a chance Madrid go for it, or are you 100%?
There's always a chance in football. Arsenal can go 1 man down in the first 2 minutes, and Real Madrid. You know what? But these are the things that I can predict. You get my point here. I am here to talk rationale, to talk about my opinion about football based on what I see. I'm not here to tell you that Real Madrid will get 2 players sent off in the first 5 minutes. There will be a fight. Someone points. That's not me talking. Oh, Declan Rice will punch Vinny Jr. in the head and Timber. This is not an analysis of football. This is just something that we cannot expect, right? But what we expect, 11 men versus 11 men, after that performance from Arsenal will go through. I'm telling you what, Arsenal might win the game. And I wouldn't be surprised. Arsenal might win at the Bernabeu, and I would have been surprised. Based on what I saw from Real Madrid versus Arsenal, I don't think that Real Madrid have a bigger chance of winning than Arsenal in this game. Because Real Madrid were destroyed, completely destroyed. Not only by the free kicks, tactically. Arsenal surprised me and surprised you as well. I thought the Arsenal would sit deep. I thought the Arsenal fans, the most optimistic Arsenal fan told me that Arsenal will sit deep and hit the counter. Arteta went out there, attacked Real Madrid and pressed them from minute 1 and dominated them. Yet I am here to say I am meant to sit here and say the Arsenal will get smashed 4-0 because it's the Bernabeu, right? That's not rational in football. I don't analyze football like this, with all due respect. I actually think that Arsenal might win the game, like actually win the game, not the tie, win 1-0 or 2-1. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be way more surprised if Arsenal lose by 2+ goal margins, based on what we see.
That's fair. Look, I have zero rationale. There's nothing in this Real Madrid team that tells me that they're going to go and do it. It's just a gut feeling. When I look at it on paper, Arsenal defense is so strong. They will set up with such a low block and pragmatic and frustrate them. My head tells me Arsenal will go through and they'll maybe lose 1-0 on the tie and they'll go through. But for whatever reason, I just think if there is a team that's going to do it, if there's a stadium, it is going to be Real Madrid. But, looking at their game at the weekend, they weren't great. And the fact that the game before that against Valencia, where they lost, they rested a lot of their players. They rested Rodrigo. He was dealt with. But this is, if they do get through to the semi-final, I mean, with the injuries they've got and looking at that front line, Arteta's done wonders. To get past Real Madrid with Marino up front, he has done absolute wonders. Looking at the quality of the difference in teams, Jude Bellingham, Vinny Jr., Rodrigo, Valverde.
Haven't that been debunked already?
Yeah.
That is debunked already. That Arsenal midfield is set up better than the Real Madrid midfield.
Yeah.
So the only thing is the attack. And we have seen Timber lock, bro. This guy, Vinny Jr., Timber really rattled him and locked him up. Kivior played well. Saliba locked it. Yeah, Mbappe. And by the way, the people that say about Real Madrid missed chances. Yes, because Arsenal made a couple of mistakes in the beginning of the game. They passed it back. Saka passed it back and Kivior passed it back. It's not that Real Madrid tore Arsenal apart and went through them and passed tiki-taka and they created chances. The 2 chances that they created were literally a couple of bad passes from Arsenal that we don't see often. When is the last time we saw Arsenal make a unforced error? That doesn't happen often.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
There's no rationale behind it.
No, listen, I hear where you're both coming from. And I think that with Arsenal, the interesting thing for me was watching this weekend. And as someone that does fan content, Sky Sports have played a part in this. And I think it's given Arteta's detractors a little bit of ammunition. They keep putting up the graphics for the title race, the title run-in. They keep asking, well, Liverpool look a bit off it. Could it open the door for Arsenal? They're just bullshitting us because they're trying to sell advertising space. They're trying to keep everybody engaged. Let's be blunt. If Man United lost 2-1 yesterday, nobody would have cared about the result. The 4-1 gave it a bit of gravitas for the scoreline. The only defeat really this weekend that holds any real, the only dropping of points that holds any real damage for a team's season that could change the course of their season was Chelsea's. It's the only one. And madly, in the media, it's the one that's had the least amount of attention. Man United's defeat, Arsenal dropping more points, even like Liverpool not being at their best got far more people talking on the radio shows I was listening to last night. And I just found that a really interesting concept. And it's kind of weird that the one thing Sky have got is a genuine top 4 race. And they seem to not really be focused on it. They're focused on other things. But back to Arsenal, I felt that the reaction was weird. All I saw, especially from Arteta out at the end of last week, was rotate, rest at the weekend. Then when he did it, they moaned. Too much rotation. Then when he brought on the stars, why are you bringing them on? They might get injured. Then when they didn't win, this is the best one. There's a chance that Liverpool drop points and we just throw more points away. You man conceded most of you said you wouldn't win it anyway at the beginning of the season. You conceded the league in December and you said it was totally finished 2 months ago when you drew with Forest. I don't know about you guys, the weird reaction this weekend. We spoke about it on Saturday, didn't we, Mo? To Arsenal dropping points. I found it to be staggering, considering the season's over. They're not winning the league anyway. There's just no way that was happening. I've just found it to be a bit of a weird...
Moaners.
Yeah.
People like to moan, bro. I lost the league, okay? We have a big game in the midweek. Oh, he should play full strength. Why? Why should he play full strength? Because we want momentum. But he knows that he lost the league already. And it doesn't matter. And you don't want the players to get injured. But we need to actually play good football. But he doesn't care. Nobody cared in that game. Nobody cared. Even rivals didn't care. By the way, even rivals didn't care, which is astonishing enough. Like, you look at this, rivals didn't care that Arsenal drew Brentford. Nobody cared.
No one.
With all the respect to the Football Terrace, Kerry, normally, when Arsenal drop points, have thousands of people coming into banter. They're doing the match reactions like, nobody cares. No one cares. Arsenal drop points against Brentford. Yeah, they're going to lose to Real Madrid. Nobody cares about the league. Yet the people that want Arteta out, which is for their reasons, whatever, they're like, but we should have won against Brentford. Why should you have won against Brentford? It's like, what's that? What if you won against Brentford and someone got injured? Well, what if Saka played 90 minutes and then comes Wednesday, he cannot run for 90 minutes? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that for people that to say that Arsenal should have won against Brentford. Bro, who cares? No one cares, and no one cared about that game. Arteta did the right thing by resting people, getting some of the second team to play out. It doesn't matter. Just get over yourself. Arteta is going to win against Real Madrid. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. You lost the league for many reasons. It has nothing to do with the Brentford game. It has nothing to do with the Brentford, Drew.
It's that you can't concede the league is over and then moan about results that come after it in terms of winning the league. Because if you're saying, we'd have beaten Everton and we'd have beaten Brentford, we could have still won the league. Well, the first thing you've got to do is admit you were wrong when you said the league title race was over. Equally, you're admitting that you're a liar when you said 4 months ago it was impossible for you to win the league. And that's my problem with it. It was just, as you say, whinging for the sake. Where I would agree is if and when Arsenal get past Madrid this week, if and when is the semi-finals? What's the date of the semi-finals?
April 29th.
April 29th, is it?
Yeah, 29th.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. and then the following week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, then the 6th of May.
Okay, so then therefore, I'm just looking at this now because then Arsenal would have the game this weekend against Ipswich, and then they would have on the 26th they would play. They play Crystal Palace on the 23rd on a Wednesday, as an example, and then they don't play again then. Well, they don't play again until they play the Champions League. So they've got 2 more league games that I'm looking at here between now and then. Even then, I would probably say you go full strength in the Ipswich game. But then when they get to that Wednesday game the following week, you'd probably rotate again. And all I'm saying, all I'm trying to allude to and looking at the dates of their games is you can't go, if there's 2 or 3 matches in between the quarters and the semi-final, you can't go half-hearted with no intensity for 2 or 3 weeks because you will lose fitness and you will lose momentum. But you are not going to lose fitness and momentum for going 80% full pelt in between 2 massive Champions League games that are intense. You're just not going to lose too much. And I think we see this so much with football fans, don't we? You get this kind of like, they ignore the science. They ignore the process that most teams go through. And ironically, for Standards FC, your god, Real Madrid, they regularly, before Champions League games, rest and rotate their main starting 11 for their league matches and have done for as long as I can remember. Arsenal do it, and the same amoebas, the same dweebs, the same basement virgins. Oh, this is outrageous. No, you're just looking for attention on it. They can't. I couldn't believe that. But I'm now looking back at it. They were faking the outrage. They must have been. They could not have genuinely been angry. They have to be faking it. Have to be faking it for me. Have to be.
So looking at it like this, Arsenal would have the first leg at the Emirates again if they were to go through, and the second leg would obviously be
Which I think has been a travesty. Actually, I think I've loved the new format, but for me, I think they've got to do this for the teams that finished top 1, top 2, top 3, top 4. They should be away. They should be at home for their second legs in every knockout game. They could make an extra incentive for teams to win more and score more goals in the league stages to give them an added advantage in the knockout phases. I think they could quite easily implement that. I'm sure they could to ensure that there's even more incentive to score.
They can't do that. It's impossible.
Why?
Because it was supposed to be Liverpool going to the semi-final versus Arsenal. So if they do this, right, they have to change it based on the team that goes through to the next round, and the tickets go for sale for the semi-final and stuff once the draw is made. You get my point? Like, you have to look at Liverpool must be Liverpool are first, so they can't do it. But Arsenal are the most unlucky team in the draw, to be honest. Like, Inter are the luckiest team in the draw, and Arsenal are the unluckiest team in the draw, to be honest, finishing third and fourth, to be honest. But there is another reason why Arsenal should play well in the league. Because if Arsenal don't win the Champions League, even if they reach the final, that run will be remembered. But also, you cannot finish 20 points behind Liverpool, because I think that will take away from your momentum going to next season. I actually think that Arsenal should do well in the league. You should not fit 20 points behind Liverpool will already be, because the media will talk about, yes, you reach a semi-final or a final. Yes, you progress in the Champions League, but it will be forgotten about. Nobody will remember that run as much as the 20 points in the league gap.
The media will, but this, for years I've said that the points, again, so hopefully now people see why I've always said this, because we're getting a real life example. Your points total is a barometer, but it's never the ultimate barometer, because let's just say now Arsenal win of their 6 remaining games, they win 3 of them, lose 2 of them, and draw 1. But they're not intense in any of those games. And Liverpool just keep winning because they're playing relaxed. Yes, there'll be a massive points difference. And if you look at it in isolation, you would say, oh, wow, they were that much better than them. But then you're removing the context that we all know that potentially Arsenal were going to rest and rotate and keep themselves fresh for those games. That's why I've never focused solely on the points that a team get. And I'm not just talking the team that wins it. I'm talking all levels, because the following season, if they were in the title race, Arsenal, they wouldn't be resting. Equally, it's why I've always said trying to win the Premier League and the Champions League at the same time is always harder than going invincible, because you can't rest at any point. You can't rest, and you have to rotate. And you had a weaker team for this game. There's a weaker team for this match here, and yet, oh wow! I saw Man United do this. I've seen City do this. I've seen teams do this where it's like, hang on, we've got to play a massive Champions League semi-final game against Barca, and then we've got a huge game against Arsenal at the weekend, and suddenly you're starting John O'Shea in central midfield for one of them, and you think, fucking hell, how are we getting through this? But you have to, because you can't play all those games. So I get your point. I don't think if Arsenal win the Champions League, like in your example, and they finish 20, they come second, but they're 15, 20 points behind Liverpool, I don't think that will have any impact on how Arsenal perform next season in the Premier League, personally. I get that some media outlets, so where you're right, Mo, is they'll write and they go, oh my God, they were 20 points better. But that's only for the nerds that think points totality is like this massive indicator of the difference in quality at all times. I don't think Arsenal personally would care. Again, if you're an Arsenal fan who's won the Champions League and all you care about is that you finish 15 points, 20 points off Liverpool, I'd say, again, I think you'd be faking that outrage personally.
Could you not say the same for Spurs, though, if we win the Europa League and finish like 16th, though? Is it not the same sort of thing?
Look, I think you're different. Forget your point. I think there is an element of if you win the Europa League, you're not as big as Arsenal. So that is huge success for you, same as Champions League is for them. But you still need to look at Ange and go, is he genuinely the guy that can make us more consistent and better in the league? Because you still need to fix that. So Amorim has said it this year, us winning the Europa League at Man United wouldn't fix this bad season. Being competitive year in, year out in your league is your bread and butter and should always be like the standard bearer of the giant clubs. It shouldn't just be winning trophies. It's what you're doing in your league. So I think you've got to get the balance right. I've got some super chats to do here before the end, gents. This one here says, Terry, why do you and this lot watch the Premier League when the league has been absolute arse cheeks? Also, Henry, the Warriors are playing in the playoffs.
In a tournament to get to the playoffs.
Oh, tournaments. Yeah, I'm watching the Premier League, Chike. Look, I don't just watch it when it's at its best. I follow the league, you know. I don't just stop watching the UFC because there's a couple of bad fight nights. You know, I don't stop supporting Man United because we have a bad few seasons. I support the Premier League as a sports league. So yeah, I'll continue to watch it. Arteta's initial season was really underrated. I already done that there from Aya. Thank you. And by the way, yeah, I think Arsenal Inter Milan would be a very intriguing final, Guna Carlos. Do you think Arteta is mentally capable of handling multiple fronts? I have my doubts. Hopefully I'm wrong. Well, yeah, look, it's a hard thing. Winning doubles, Premier League, Champions League doubles is rare. Wenger's won doubles in Premier League. Fergie's done doubles and trebles. Pep's done them. Carlo Ancelotti done a double. Wenger won 2 doubles, FA Cup and Premier League. Outside of that, who else has done it?
Mourinho done 2 doubles.
He didn't do the Premier League and FA Cup, did he?
Not in England. He did it with Porto and Inter.
I'm talking in the Premier League. So just, I know he did it outside of it. So I'm just saying, like...
Conte, didn't he win the FA Cup? Oh, no, that was Ancelotti, wasn't it?
That's not the Champions League.
Ironic. What's his name? Di Matteo won the FA Cup and the Premier League, but it's very hard to win a trophy and a league title at the same time. It always has been. So it's a very elite achievement. You stabilize a faltering team first before experiencing success. Maresca is fine for now comparing to where we were last season. That makes sense. Patrick here says, in my opinion, fans dislike terms like process and project because most people associate those terms with business and not football. Most fans don't want to equate the two despite them being completely linked. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's not a football issue. It's a societal one. Most people nowadays, due to social media, suffer from instant gratification. They view success as a shiny object, something that can be obtained overnight. It's very, very true. Bowley doesn't respect Chelsea fans. He's so arrogant. I see a lot go for him. Henry fantasizing about Arsenal going out. Is this where I agree with Mo saying people have zero ball? This is where I agree with Mo, zero ball knowledge. Madrid are 15 times champions, but people need to consider current circumstances.
Yeah, he's right.
Very, very true indeed. If any team can bottle 3 goals, it's Terry's Arsenal. Name one attacking team that has beaten Arsenal recently. Arsenal's weakness is playing low block teams. Hence, Inter is the team I fear. We are facing attacking teams. No issue. Bring it on. Factually, the last time Arsenal conceded 3 goals was in December 2023, 4-3 at Luton. Do you know what I think it is, Spandon? I think the stat that's been put out by the media is the last time they lost by conceding 3 goals was that game. They won that match. So, yeah, you're right. But again, if you win 4-3 at the Bernabeu, it doesn't matter, does it? It's, the last time you lost a game. So the stat is the last time you lost a match by conceding 3 or more was then. So, yes, it's that difference. In my humble opinion, if Arteta goes through, I can see him being in the ring for Madrid. I think if he wins the Champions League, he could be he could be on the shortlist. But I think they're going for Alonso personally.
Yeah.
For the league, Arsenal just need to ensure they hang on to the second spot and don't slip below. The league is over, so focus on the Champions League for now. Not just winning it to be challenging it is in the league. Yes, you always you've got to be trying to win it. There's no doubt about it, but you've got to look at the game state. Look, this stream is going to redirect you to Judge Mo's channel. So go and support him over there. Go and get subscribing. Go and get that done for us, please, people. We're back at 6 p.m. on the Football Terrace for the Top 6 show. So make sure you're back then. Excited to go through and preview the week's games and get your takes and views and opinions on what's been going on. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to sit here on a Monday morning and talk football with you all. Everyone else, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.